Since becoming director of the BMW Center for German and European Studies in 2002, I've been asked hundreds of times to tell the story of the center. And on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the center, after talking to colleagues, after talking to staff and alumni, we decided it was time to go out and get the real story. So we reached out to a number of people, you're going to recognize all of them in the footage that follows, and asked them to tell us about how the center came to be, who and what was the motive force behind it, and maybe a little bit about what makes the center a special place today, 25 years later. And after watching this, I think you're going to agree with me that we were incredibly lucky here at Georgetown to have such vision and leadership, and that this place is special for a reason.
The most significant development probably was that after Helmut Kohl was awarded an honorary degree by Tim Healy on behalf of the university in 1988, they had become good friends. Kohl was persuaded by Werner Weidenfeld to think of ways in which the alliance between Germany and the United States, not only Germany and the United States, but the European community and the United States could be strengthened.
In '87, I became coordinator for German-American cooperation in German government. And I have to confess, I was deeply concerned. I was almost shocked how poor the level of interaction was in intellectual life at this time. So my, let me say, conclusion was we have to initiate something really attractive, new magnets of intellectual interest, and so on and so on. So I said that to the German Chancellor, Helmut Kohl, at this time.
A request for proposal comes to us for basically a $10 million grant, $1 million a year for 10 years to set up a center of excellence in German and European studies. I mean, when that request for a proposal arrived, I almost felt sorry for all the other people who received it because we were just so farther ahead and frankly prepared to be so much more creative than any of the others. And we got together a committee that was chaired by Putnam Ebinger, who was running our undergraduate program. And she got the troops together, Kurt Jankowski, Carl Cerny, Tom Helde, and I think Heidi Burns was in on that now.
And pretty quickly, we came to the conclusion that the deeper interest presumably was to create a cadre of people that were extraordinarily knowledgeable about European and specifically German things. So that was one of the first considerations that we said, if that is the case, that means we need to be looking at an academic program.
And they just developed a winning proposal that included the education of the next generation of Atlanticists in a master's program in German and European studies.
I had a visit from the cultural attaché of the embassy in Washington, and he gave me a letter in German from the Chancellor, and the first paragraph said, "Congratulations on your new position. Thank you. I knew I had the good fortune to know your predecessor well. Lovely. We hope you'll come to visit Bonn as well." Fine, I thought, but where's the beef? I thought this was about a competition for something very prestigious. The next paragraph said, "And if the university is still interested, we would like to offer it a grant for a Center of German and European Studies." And as Dante wrote in another context entirely, I read no further. I put the letter down and said to the consul, the man from the embassy, were very interested.
We just went out and recruited the best people. For openers, we got Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. We got Sam Barnes and Greg Flynn. And they were right on top of this. Sam was running the overall program. Greg was the dynamite director of the master's program. We got Roger Chickering, a household name in German history. I mean, we just staffed it up. It was a slam dunk.
The second chapter in the history of the center was inaugurated in 1996 when the BMW Corporation gave what at the time was the single largest gift in Georgetown's history.
I was over in the south of France in the summertime. So I went swimming, and as I came out of the surf, I just kind of bumped into this other guy. And we started talking, and I asked him, well, his name was Ulf Zabel. And he said, well, we're planning a great big conference on the Atlantic community in Washington. So I said, well, why don't you have it at Georgetown? Oh, he said, that's a great idea.
It was held at Georgetown in October of '91, and that's the first time I met all the people from BMW, including Bernd Pischetsrieder, who was the head of the firm, Eberhard von Kuhnheim and Helmut Panke, who were on the directory. The great man, Hans Graf von der Goltz, who became very good friends. He was a brilliant man, very cultivated man. He wrote novels, and with Hans you could talk about anything. And perhaps most important, Herbert Quandt's widow, Johanna Quandt, who was one of those ladies who had to say nothing, but you wanted to measure up if you were in her company. And she was very interested in the notion of strengthening the transatlantic partnership between Europe and the United States, and Germany in particular.
We started getting visits from the BMW folk who were coming to see. So what is going on here? And they always reported back how much they enjoyed talking to the students. The students were always the hit. We had wonderful conversations with these students. We were talking to faculty. We were talking to students. We were talking to the ESP administration. We were talking to students. And the students were always what was most impressive to them.
So as we were about to run out of money, I said to Sam, why don't we go over to Germany and have a little talk with Graf Goltz? So we flew to Germany and we met with Graf Goltz, and we told him we needed $10 million to endow the Center for German and European Studies. Class act, he said. It's a very interesting idea. I think you should have lunch with Mrs. Quandt, the chair of the Quandt Foundation. So next day we have lunch with this very elegant woman, Mrs. Quandt, and almost no mention is made of the grant. There is a discussion of Georgetown's German relationship in our program, but money is not brought up.
And on April 23rd, 1996, the team from BMW arrived in a red, a white, and a blue BMW. We had a very brief meeting, and I was handed a check for $10 million. And I said to myself, I wonder if I let go of it, will it fly, or will it land on the desk? Well, I didn't have to ask, because the chief of fundraising snapped it out of my hand.
So it was kind of from Ulf Zabel on the shores of the Mediterranean to Graf Goltz in Georgetown, over to Germany for lunch with Graf Goltz and Mrs. Quandt, back here into the hands of Craig Helsing. This is all wonderful stuff because it's all people-oriented. People are making these commitments, and they're made out of the establishment of personal relationships. And this is where Georgetown is really good at this. And the Jesuits, with their turned around collars, they're very good at it.
If you were to talk to someone who spent any amount of time here at the center, what makes it unique? They could give you any one of a number of answers. And for me, it's all of those answers together that make the center a special place.
Georgetown University and the School of Foreign Service in particular is a place where scholarship and the world of policy, practical politics, of commerce, of non-governmental organizations, of international organizations all come together. And I would argue, and have, to the enrichment of all, that having scholars who are interested in things other than simply the incentives in the world of academia is a plus for our scholarship and for the policy work we do.
Father O'Donovan came in, let me say, the role of Father Healy was really in this kick-off point when the real serious work, how to proceed, started. It was Father O'Donovan.
So from the beginning, it was meant to be a versatile program, both in its outcome, whether you became a professional in the field or an academic, but also in the way you approach the fields of study. I think that influenced the whole university in a very significant way, because the talk about it, the preparation for it, the subsequent additions to the faculty positions made Georgetown an even more international, interdisciplinary institution.
The so-called social question will in the 21st century appear as the global social question. And that global social question is full of dynamite. And it has to be understood before we try to influence it politically. And now what you're doing with this institute, and with the center rather, is pushing. And what I hope you, the center, will be doing during the next 15 years is to remind, not day after day, because that would be boring, but in adequate periods, by asking the questions or by digging for the right questions and helping young people to understand their importance.
The center brings together scholars, students, and practitioners around an interdisciplinary program of research, teaching, and public outreach that is replicated nowhere else in the world.
When I came to Georgetown as dean, it was the School of International Affairs. It then began, as we developed the arms and legs of the school, it then became a school of international and regional studies. And this has created a powerhouse. We are recognized as a leader in international studies education.
Regional studies is the key, I believe, to support for quality policy, whether it's at an international organization or in government. I would say that the idea of regional studies is absolutely key for the university to fulfill one of its functions, two major functions, to create and transmit knowledge. And it's the knowledge that's created and who it's transmitted to and for what purpose. And some of that purpose is for scholarship, pure scholarship, and it better continue to be. But some of it is to make our policymakers better at what they do. And in the case of the BMW Center for German and European Studies, we are turning out people that are going to improve the Atlantic relationship. That, for me, is what it was always all about, and I pray that it will continue to be.